Hello everybody, welcome back to It's Current Year for another fan submission. Today's submission is from DBD King of Atolia, aka Captellus. He's up against the Scion of Slaanesh, aka Neckbet. This game was taken from a recent best of 7. These two gentlemen played on Logic's stream. I'll link Logic's channel down below. Go and check his channel out. But it was a really fun best of 7, and this is a really fun game. I was watching it live, and I wasn't watching it live. I watched back the VOD, and I just loved this game. I just loved how it plays out. So I asked one of the players, who is victorious in the end, I won't spoil it, if I could cast the game, and he was fine with it. So here we are. So yeah, for the Beastmen, Neckbet is playing the Beastmen. We have 2 units of Tuskor chariots on this flank, and then a nice strong line of Gore Herd with shields. I actually like the shielded pick here better than the dual infantry because their stats are still pretty good. They still blend through. The skeletons fine. The shield block chance and the extra melee defense just buys them a little bit more time as a damage dealer. So yeah, I usually find myself taking the shields over the double axes as well. A couple of units of Ungor spears, just some more bodies to throw into the line. 2 units of Ungor raiders, actually better than they seem at killing constructs just because of their weight of fire. 90 shots is, even with 1 AP or whatever they have, it still adds up over time, and they're very cheap. 3 units of Centigore throwing axes, again quite an important tech piece in this matchup because ranged AP is not something the Beastmen have. Long range AP isn't something they have, but Centigores can do some cycle charging. They can focus fire things with their throwing axes, so they're a good troubleshooting unit. 2 units of Razor Gore, a bit of mass, good damage on the charge. They can at times be a bit of a fire and forget unit because once they rampage, they're pretty much dead. But for 600 gold, they can potentially trade up against a lot of things. And leading the force, we have a Brave Shaman of Wild, who is coming in with the Traderkin, because why wouldn't you bring Traderkin? One of the best spells in the game probably at the moment. And Voltide, which actually is, in my opinion, probably a less good pick. I think it does it does more damage, but it's more expensive and it has less AP than Bray Scream. And I like Bray Scream as a tech piece against Tomb Guard, but Voltide potentially can do a lot of damage to just the Chaff Infantry, which is important to clear against the Tomb Kings. Leading the force is the big boy himself. You see him almost everywhere these days. Taurox the Brass Bull. Looks like he's just coming in with the Brass Body as well as Slaughterer's Call. So he's got some AoE buffs as well as the combat, get out of jail card if you want from the Brass Body. So for DBD's Captain Tellus, we have Skeleton Horse Archers up the front. Another unit I am a big fan of because good range is always nice to have in a 360 firing unit that can move as fast as them. We've got a couple of units of Nehekara Warriors, or 1 unit of Nehekara Warriors up the front, which I don't think is the worst pick here. They will really wipe the floor with Ungors, and they'll trade reasonably evenly with Gores. They might actually even win Gores against Gores just through leadership. We've got Skeleton Warriors here, a couple of spears, couple of swords. Tomb Guard in the back here, 2 units of Tomb Guard, and we have the Kepra Guard, one of the coolest looking dual infantry units in the game. Magic attacks, they regen, they're obviously weak to fire, but that's not really an issue against Beastmen other than Taurox. And yeah, pretty beastly stats. With their anti-infantry bonus, they'll land in a lot of hits and they can blend through a lot of infantry. In the very rear, we have some Nehekara Horsemen. We've also got a Necrotect here, which is a nice pick. Not a great combatant in his own right. Does have an anti-infantry bonus, but with Embraces of the Sun for fire weakness and melee attack debuffing, as well as the Restore, because over here, that's right, we've got the Sphinx of Usekph. So massive fire resistance, so a very good tech piece against Taurox. Massive anti-large, just a real beat stick. Needs to find a good target because it's not good at killing infantry, but I think we all know that it does have some good targets here. Cetra up on the kitty, so there's your infantry clearing power in the list. Jaf's Incantation of Cursed Blades alongside Neru's Incantation of Protection, Wrath of Petra, and then the AoE debuff. Let's get this underway because it's a pretty good game. So obviously we're going to have a little bit of a skirmish phase here. Now the Centigores quite rightly will pull back. They don't really want to be taking any shots from the Skeleton Horse Archers who do outrange them quite significantly. Likewise, the Razor Gores might only take a few volleys for the Razorgors to get rampaged. So potentially going to have to do a bit of rejigging here. The Scion of Slaanesh, aka Usekph, but Chariots around here can probably come in and get busy, but there's enough sort of single targets, single entities that would appreciate fighting Chariots a bit more, roaming around, to just make him sort of think twice about that as well. So good play here, advancing with the infantry. It's basically a shield wall, not in the traditional sense, but you know, a Gore holds a shield just as well as a Roman Legionnaire or whatever in the phalanx formation holds a shield as far as Total War is concerned. So the front lines are going to meet. I'd say initially it's going to go reasonably well for the Beastmen, apart from probably this poor unit of Ungor Spearmen who are going to be sacrificed to these Nehekara warriors. And as we take a look down here, we'll just see, yeah, on the charge, some nice damage being done, although a nice Viletide coming down, which is going to do a lot of damage and even out the fight somewhat, as the Gore herds make a nice little dash through the pocket of infantry here. Ungor Spearmen trying to get onto the Horse Archers, but they've unfortunately been caught up by literally a handful of skeletons, so as we go through the bottom of the map just there, and allowing the Centaurs to rotate around and get some good focus fire probably on the Sphinx of Usekph. Gonna try and obviously, well, we know there's healing coming, because why else would you take the Necrotect here? Probably a little bit of a mistake from Usekph here getting bunched up. I'd be probably pulling those Ungors out now. If they've taken the original charge, let the Gores fight. They'll kill the Skeletons just as effectively. Skeletons won't do a lot of damage to Gores, and the Ungors are just taking up space for the Gore herds to hit their attack animation. A lot of burst damage going into the Sphinx of Usekph. Nice response here with obviously the Restore, if I can get the unit card. Restore and the Nero's Incantation, so physical resistance on tap here. And we saw a nice Viletide going down, potentially trying to get the Kepra Guard, as some cycle charging here by the Horse Archers into the rear of the Gore herd, going to help them be terror routed off by the presence of Cetra. And people need to do this more. I know that you don't want to be taking a charge headlong with your horse archers, but if you can get a rear charge like this, I mean, they're still a fear causer. They can break stuff off, particularly on a low leadership faction like the Beastmen, very, very effectively. The remains of these Nehekara warriors are going to push through and probably come to grips with these Ungors. They might drag a few down with them before they crumble out of existence. These Tomb Guard are coming down. They can probably 2-for-1 both these units here, but the Chariots are just doing some laps. Not a lot of mass out here to help sort of block them off. And Taurox getting absolutely ragdolled like the Gorbals of old, and yeah, he doesn't really want any part of this fight. He'll do okay against Cetra, but against the Sphinx, who can resist a lot of his damage, as we see a Curse of Juff going down, or Juff's Incantation for the extra bonus large. That did come at the cost of an Overcast, so Cetra probably did take some damage there. I think if you're going to Overcast that, you're probably better off overcasting it on Cetra and letting him benefit from the anti-large, because obviously the Sphinx is going to actually hit a majority of its attacks. It has something like 20-something bonus versus large, and with 66 melee attack, 35 bonus versus large, it's hitting at 100 melee attack, so it's going to land just about every hit. You have to get very unlucky on the RNG, so just a little sort of little tidbit there, but obviously in the heat of battle we just spam click away. I know I'm certainly guilty of that. The Necrotect here is getting his hands dirty. As I said, does have an anti-infantry bonus, does not want to be anywhere near Taurox, so a nice little response there by Captalis. And Usekph at this stage, even though the constructs have put a fair bit of hurt into Taurox, these 3 units of Centaurs have pretty much done as they please so far. They haven't really taken any damage. Tomb Guard being introduced to the fight now, and yeah, Gores and Ungors definitely aren't going to like fighting them. And I'll tell you, Ungor Raiders are probably the last people that want to be fighting the Kepra Guard. This Bray Shaman might be able to run some laps through the Kepra Guard here, but these Ungor Raiders are on the clock. Look at their health dropping. They terror out, and they're going to run. They could potentially get shattered, but a nice little save here by the Centaurs. Probably more just a movement order to get the axes in. As we see the second Restore going down. No, another Incantation of Curse Blades and a Protection going down. So definitely getting the Lore attribute procs as well. And I think we must have seen another Restore, because yeah, that Sphinx looks very, very healthy still. And the issue for the Beastmen now is the infantry is running a little low. There is plenty of Tomb Guard over here. Cetra can just bounce around wherever he needs to. The Necrotect can basically just shadow Taurox, and Even though this Necrotect here is getting shunted along by the Bray Shaman, not a lot of good options. I suppose there's still some chariots, so we may be able to use them. The Nehakara Horsemen are probably going to get the best of this engagement, but yeah, Tomb Guard here, really the only hope for defeating them at the moment is get some good cycle charging with the Centaurs or some rich shots with their axes. I suppose the Ungor Raiders can, if they're not shooting into the shields, can probably do pretty well, because 50 armor is not going to do not going to help you a lot, but Taurox is just a hunted. Look at him, he's not doing corner any great pride at the moment, because he's having to run from this fight. Senses an opportunity maybe to come back in and get some hits on Cetra, but the incantation of protection on Cetra is going to give him some physical resistance. Taurox is absolutely on death's door. It's only going to take this Necro Sphinx one hit. It's doing its statue impression at the moment, but there go. Oh, that was extremely lucky. I can't believe that's when he was fleeing and his back turned as well, and with the melee defense penalty, that he still managed to miss that attack. But ammo starting to get a little bit sparse. A very nice use of the Usekph summon is going to pin a lot of these Centaurs in, and with the spears and just the infantry tattered as it might. Well, these spears are pretty healthy, but even just the bodies of the Kepra Guard, it's going to be doing a lot of damage. And yeah, these Centaurs are pretty much the only hope now for the Beastmen. Taurox does die. He grabs his throat and falls to the ground. These Ungors, they've got the right idea. They don't want anything to do with a large ancient stone carving that's now come to life and growling at them. The Necro Sphinx is going to do pretty well. I mean, the anti-large here is fine, but generally it's better as a single entity killer because it's splash damage. But even with that final Traderkin managing to get a few hits, it's not going to be enough. Taurox is dead. The Bray Shaman has shattered. That's going to be army losses, and Captellus has played a brilliant game there. This is a matchup that, prior to Silence and the Fury, I actually think was quite hard for the Beastmen, and I think it's flipped. I think it's been flipped quite considerably since that DLC did come out. It feels all of a sudden like the Beastmen have a lot of options, because constructs were always the issue. Your only really good burst damage against the constructs were either Centaur throwing axes or potentially Minotaurs. Both units are very squishy. Both units are very susceptible to just the mass small arm fire, susceptible to Bosharpti as well, susceptible to skeleton horse archers. So there was, there was a counter to the constructs, but the Tomb Kings could potentially counter the counter quite as well in a fairly well balanced list. Tomb Guard as well, kind of tough at times. As I said, I mean, Law of the Wilds gives you a few good options for clearing Tomb Guard. Chariots are good at clearing Tomb Guard. So there's options there. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's a heavily Beastman favoured matchup, but I do feel it's one matchup that since Silence of the Fury for the Beastmen has really been. Well, I mean, there's plenty of matchups that the Beastmen have flipped since that came out, but yeah, this is certainly one of them. So yeah, like I said, this was part of a best of 7. So I mean, Taurox has had a tough time, but he's still got some decent value. The Necro Sphinx ROR is a nice counterplay to him, and obviously with the Necrotect offering the restore ability, and obviously the weakness to fire. I'm not sure how much that was made use of just with the proximity of the two units, but yeah, it's a nice little team up there, nice little use of that item. Cetra can sort of roam around and do as he pleases because he's very mobile. He's got very good mass, very good animations. And yeah, the Tomb Guard, both very healthy. Nehakara Warriors got a lot of kills, maybe haven't got their damage value back, but I'd say they've done their job. They've punched a hole in the Beastman force and did get through and pressure the Ungors, who despite, constantly being under pressure, again, have both got their value back. One of the more underrated shooting units in the game. You've probably heard me say that before. And even the Nehakara Horsemen, I think they were just killing chariots. I think they were just on chariot blocking duty. They've done well as well. Even the Skeleton Spears. So yeah, Captain Talus has just played a brilliant game here, honestly. Really good control of his single entities. Really good use of, spacing the battlefield out with his infantry. And even though I don't mind this Beastmen list, I've played something similar into this matchup myself. Just, yeah, a lot of potential threats in this force that they just couldn't possibly counter them all. So yeah, I mean, Wild's Caster's done great. Chariots have done, yeah, not as well. Bit surprised the throwing axes didn't do as well. I suppose we saw a few good incantation of protections on the Sphinx, which was the primary target. But yeah, they seem to stay healthy till the late game and use most of their ammo. So kind of surprised not to see them get a little bit more. But yeah, as I said, I'll link Logic's channel. Go watch the Best of 7 series. These two guys put on a great series. It was a lot of fun to watch. And thank you very much to Captellis for providing it. I'm sure Neckbeck won't mind me casting either, but yeah, great game to both players. Thanks for checking it out. We'll have more. We've got a couple of good replays actually coming up in the next couple of days on the channel, so stick around and I'll see you again soon. Take care.